He had only been away on a mission for a short while, but when he returned home, he found that the little girl he had adopted had changed. She no longer faked illness just to spend more time with him, no longer pretended to have a fever and called him husband. Instead, she now addressed him politely and distantly as uncle, a title she had never been willing to use before. She no longer dressed in stylish, revealing clothes, parading around in front of him like she used to. Instead, she now wore a faded school uniform, covering herself up tightly. He thought I had simply matured now that I had turned 18, but in reality, I had been reborn. In my past life, I had managed to marry Ethan Carter, but after 50 years of hard work and devotion, when he passed away, I saw the photo he had left behind. In the photo, his white moonlight was smiling gently, radiantly. On the back of the picture, he had written, "The love of my life for 50 years." At that moment, my love shattered. In this life, I would no longer stubbornly chase after his expectations for me to attend Harvard. Instead, I applied to the first military medical university. Like my parents, who had sacrificed their lives for peace, I wanted to become a doctor without borders. For once, I wanted to live according to my own will. On the day I received my admission letter from the military medical university, Ethan had just returned from a mission for the military district. Holding the thick envelope in my hand, I instinctively hid it behind my back when I looked up and saw Ethan standing in the main hall with Olivia Jennings, arranging some things. Olivia's sickly sweet voice rang out. "This fine silk fabric is a gift for Aunt Helen. She mentioned before that she wanted a tailor to make her something to wear in the fall. And these records, I asked a colleague to find them for me. Didn't you say that Grandpa loves opera? These will keep him entertained." After saying that, she took out a blue plaid tie and gestured as if to put it around Ethan's neck. With a shy smile, she added, "I secretly bought this for you when we were at the mall that day. It suits you perfectly. Let's save it for our wedding day. All right?" My mind went blank. So, they really were getting married. Then, I should leave, shouldn't I? Without my interference or reckless foolishness, Ethan was finally able to be with the one he truly loved. Olivia noticed me, but acted as if she hadn't. She wrapped her arms around Ethan's neck and deliberately asked, "Oh, did you not bring a gift back for Emily? Do you think she'll be mad at her future aunt? After all, it seems like she's never liked me much." Ethan let out a sigh. "She's just a kid, immature. Don't take it to heart. Even though she grew up in the Carter family, she's still an outsider. Sooner or later, she'll move out." I flinched, my fingers trembling slightly. It felt as if my heart had been crushed into pieces. My parents had been military doctors under General Carter's command. During a battle, they sacrificed themselves to protect a young journalist who had rushed into the war zone. Seeing that I had no one left, General Carter took pity on me and adopted me. I was 7 years old then. Ethan was 17. As a child, he always comforted me, telling me to treat this place as my home, to see him as family. But now, I had become an outsider. After leading Ethan to say what she wanted to hear, Olivia finally turned to me and pretended to be surprised. "Oh, Emily, you're back." She walked over and grabbed my hand. Her sharp nails dug into my skin ever so slightly, without drawing attention. "Don't take what we just said too seriously, okay? Ethan still cares about you. It's just that during our last mission at the military base, you really went too far. He's still angry, so he just said those things in the heat of the moment. In my past life, when I found out that Ethan was taking Olivia with him to the military district for a mission, I was devastated, because he had promised me that he would take me instead. But after I confessed my feelings to him, he stopped indulging my childish demands. He even pointed at my nose and scolded me for being shameless. He withdrew all his favoritism toward me and chose to bring Olivia along instead. Olivia had even deliberately asked me, "Emily, why do you look so unhappy? Ethan and I are going for official business. I know you don't like me, but you should prioritize the bigger picture. You need to learn to differentiate what's important." Ethan, still angry, had coldly reprimanded me. "Olivia is a military news reporter. Journalists are required to document the mission. If I don't bring her, who else should I bring? Stop letting your childish thoughts interfere with our work." After they returned from the military base, they officially became a couple. To make sure I gave up completely, Ethan deliberately displayed his affection for Olivia in front of me. But this time, I didn't lock myself in my room, crying until my eyes were swollen. I didn't throw a tantrum or make a fool of myself in a desperate attempt to stop Ethan from getting married. I simply smiled and asked, "So, you two are getting married?" Ethan frowned and asked coldly, "What if we are? I'm warning you, don't try to pull anything. Olivia is going to be your aunt from now on. She'll be the future lady of the Carter family. You better know your place. Otherwise, I won't hesitate to send you to the capital to live with Grandpa." Before he could finish his sentence, I interrupted him. "Congratulations, Uncle." Ethan froze. In the past, I had never been willing to call him Uncle. But now, I finally accepted it. Ethan seemed momentarily unsettled by my response. Olivia quickly picked up on the shift in atmosphere between us. A fleeting look of unwillingness flashed across her calculating expression, but she quickly regained her composure and stepped forward with a light, easy smile. "Emily, I brought you something," she said. "Ethan and I are getting married soon, so we've been clearing out a lot of things at home. Consider this my gift to you as your future sister-in-law." She handed me a large box. When I opened it, I found it filled with old clothes. This wasn't new. Olivia always did this. Any clothes, shoes, or accessories she no longer wanted, she would pass down to me. In the past, Ethan had at least made an effort to buy me new clothes, dressing me up like a little princess. But now, I was only worthy of his cast-offs. Olivia smiled as if she were being generous. "I treat you like family. There's no need to waste money on new things when these are still perfectly fine. Look, this trench coat. I bought it when I went to the mountains for an interview. The style might be a bit outdated, and there's a small tear from when it got caught on something, but if you stitch it up, it'll be good as new. And this skirt? A tailor made it for me. It's one of a kind. It has a little stain, but that doesn't matter, does it? You're just a kid, no need to be so particular." Finally, she dug through the box and pulled out half a melted lipstick. Pressing her lips together in a smile, she added, "Ethan mentioned you like makeup. I had a colleague bring this back from overseas for me. I've barely used it, so you can have it." Ethan shot me a disapproving look. "It doesn't suit you," he muttered. I let out a bitter laugh. People always said Ethan and Olivia were a perfect match. Talented and beautiful, a couple made in heaven. And yet, I couldn't accept it. I had once thought that if I wore Olivia's old clothes and put on a mature woman's makeup, maybe Ethan would look at me differently. But in his eyes, I had only ever been an imitation, a cheap and laughable copy. This time, I didn't fight it. I smiled naturally and said, "Thank you, Uncle Ethan. Thank you, Olivia. But I'm still a student, and these things don't really suit me. You should keep them for yourselves." It was only then that they finally noticed the change in me. I was no longer wearing clothes that didn't match my age. No longer covering my face in poorly applied makeup to seem older. Instead, I had put on my school uniform, the same uniform I had once hated for being too plain and childish, the same one that now wrapped me up completely. Ethan's expression softened slightly. "It's good that you're finally acting your age," he said. I took a deep breath. "Do you need anything else from me, Uncle Ethan, Olivia? If not, I'd like to go back to my room and rest." They had no reason to stop me. I turned and left, leaving them behind. That evening, Ethan and Olivia went out to order their wedding attire and cakes. It wasn't until late at night that I saw the headlights of his old military jeep flicker outside the house. I had already eaten dinner alone. Sitting in my room, I quietly packed my things. When I looked up, I found Ethan standing at the doorway. I didn't know how long he had been there. His gaze drifted to the thick envelope sitting on my desk, his expression shifting ever so slightly. "Is that your admission letter from Harvard?" he asked. Ethan had always wanted me to apply to Harvard. He believed I should attend the best university, receive the best education. In my previous life, I had done everything to meet his expectations. I had studied endlessly, pushing myself to exhaustion, and finally, I had gotten in. I had followed his wishes step by step, hoping it would bring me closer to him. But even then, I had never truly won his heart. In this life, I had chosen a different path. But I didn't tell him the truth. I simply nodded and said, "Yes." It arrived yesterday. For the first time in a long while, Ethan smiled. You should go to the capital and tell Grandpa the good news. Since Olivia and I are busy preparing for the wedding, we won't have time to look after you." I gave a quiet nod. "All right." The Military Medical University started its semester earlier than most schools. I had been wondering how I would slip away without him noticing. But since he was sending me away himself, I no longer needed an excuse. Ethan hesitated for a moment before asking, "Do you need me to assign a security officer to take you there?" I shook my head. "No need. Then go to the train station tomorrow by yourself. Olivia and I will be visiting an old commander. Oh, and one more thing. After Olivia and I get married, we plan to convert your room into a nursery. I'll have a guest room downstairs set up for you. Make sure to pack up all your belongings before you leave." The next day, Ethan was gone by the time I woke up. I finished packing my bags, then took one last look around my room. In the wardrobe, there were still a few things he had bought for me. An old second-hand camera he had carefully selected from multiple sellers, and some small souvenirs he had brought back from his missions, things he thought would make me happy. I didn't take any of them with me. On the bedside table, there was still a photo of the two of us. I picked it up, ran my fingers lightly over the surface, and then set it back down. After all, from now on, they would be a happy family of 3. There was no longer a place for me here. I carried my luggage downstairs, pausing at the doorway for one last look at the place I had called home for the past 10 years. In my heart, I silently said goodbye to the past, to Ethan Carter. From now on, we would never see each other again. I had only been at university for a week when Ethan showed up. I had known he would find out sooner or later. After all, Grandpa Carter was in the capital, while my school was in the Northwest. The student roster of the Military Medical University was shared with the military. Given the Carter family's deep connections, there was no way they wouldn't uncover the truth. That day, I was carrying a thermos, on my way to the boiler room to get hot water, when Ethan's military jeep pulled up in front of me. The moment he stepped out, he immediately confronted me. "Who told you to apply to the Military Medical University? Didn't I tell you to apply to Harvard?" Trailing behind him was Olivia Jennings, clinging to his arm as she added in a deliberately sweet but sharp voice, "Emily, you're being so immature. Ethan and I went through so much trouble to plan a future for you. If you resent us, fine, but how could you gamble with your own future?" I met Ethan's gaze steadily and said, "I'm not gambling with my future. This is what I want to do." But he didn't care about what I wanted. He spoke in the same commanding tone he always used, as if his word was final. "Where's your dorm? Pack your things and withdraw from school. You can retake the entrance exam next year." Hearing those words again brought back memories of my past life. I had spent countless nights studying under dim lights, pushing myself to the brink of collapse, just for a few words of approval from him. Now, standing here, I felt nothing but exhaustion. When I saw the security officer heading toward my dormitory, I instinctively stepped forward to block his way. For the first time, I called Ethan by his full name. "Ethan Carter," I said, looking directly at him. "What right do you have to interfere in my life? Are you speaking as an outsider, an uncle in name only, or as the man I once foolishly loved?" The moment those words left my mouth, the unspoken tension between us finally broke. Ethan's face darkened, his fury barely contained. In his anger, he slapped me across the face. A ringing sound echoed in my ears, but my mind had never been clearer. That slap, consider it repayment for the years he had raised me. From now on, we owed each other nothing. Ethan seemed to realize what he had done. He looked down at his own hand, as if in disbelief, and for the first time he lowered his head and murmured, "I'm sorry, Emily, but I was doing this for your own good. Isn't it better for you to attend the top university?" A mocking smile tugged at the corner of my lips. "No, it's not, because I am Emily Carter. I have my own dreams, my own path to follow. I don't want to live according to your expectations anymore." Ethan's frustration boiled over. He scoffed, his voice laced with disbelief. "Expectations? Haven't I always made your choices for you? What expectations could you possibly have of your own?" And there it was. Because everything in my life had been dictated by Ethan, I had once believed he was my whole world. I had lived solely for him, blindly chasing after him. I had thought that as long as I kept trying, he would one day see me. But now that I had stepped away from the Carter family, chosen the military medical university, and broadened my horizons, I realized Ethan was just another person in this vast world. And I had countless other choices beyond simply becoming Mrs. Carter. I let out a light laugh, my gaze unwavering. So tell me, Ethan, in what capacity do you think you have the right to interfere in my life? His expression hardened, his jaw tightening. I've made my decision. If my parents were still alive, they would support me. I have my own future, and I will pursue my dreams here. I will build my own life, my own career. I might even find someone who will walk by my side for the rest of my life. I've grown up, Ethan. I'm not that little girl who followed you around anymore. And I'm certainly not your puppet. As we spoke, a few male students jogged past us. They were fresh-faced, energetic, dressed in athletic uniforms from their morning training. One of them waved at me, flashing a bright smile. Ethan's expression twisted with something unreadable. He had probably never considered the possibility that one day I would leave him behind. That one day I would be standing beside another man, holding someone else's hand, becoming someone else's wife. I curved my lips into a faint smile. Uncle Ethan, aren't you getting married soon? Then let me wish you and the one you truly love a lifetime of happiness. A wedding requires a lot of preparation. You should be focusing on that, not on an outsider like me, someone with no blood ties to your family. I paused for a moment before continuing. I heard the wedding is scheduled for next month. University coursework is demanding, and I won't have time. I won't be attending your wedding. Ethan said nothing, but his expression darkened. Unexpectedly, something went wrong at Ethan and Olivia's wedding, and I was involved. I had only been enrolled at the military medical university for less than a month when an article in the newspaper threw me into a public controversy. On the front page was a large, grainy black and white photo of an elderly man in his 60s kneeling on the ground, his face twisted in desperation. He was clutching the hand of a young female military doctor, begging for help. And that young military doctor was me. The headline read, "Elderly man suffers medical emergency, begs young military doctor for help. Heartless soldier ignores his pleas." And beneath it, the byline credited the reporter, Olivia Jennings. But that wasn't what had actually happened. The military medical university operated under a strict, closed-campus system. Students were only allowed out once a month for a single day to buy necessities. That day, I had been at a department store near campus when I encountered the elderly man. His wife had suddenly collapsed due to a cerebral hemorrhage, but I was just a first-year student, barely trained and completely unqualified to handle a medical emergency of that scale. The only thing I could do was rush back to school to get help. Fortunately, I ran into one of the professors at the school gates. Thanks to his intervention, we were able to get the elderly woman to the hospital in time to save her life. The man had knelt before me, not to beg for help, but to thank me. And yet, he had only been on the ground for 2 seconds before we pulled him back up. Somehow, in those 2 seconds, a reporter had captured the moment, twisted the story, and turned it into a nationwide scandal. "Emily, we understand your situation, and we believe in your character and dedication to serving the people," my instructor said. "But the impact of this article has been terrible. Many readers have sent letters demanding that the school take action against you. The university needs you to provide an explanation as soon as possible." I took a deep breath, staring at the name beneath the headline. "Don't worry, Professor. I'll handle this." The next time I saw Ethan and Olivia was when they came to the Capitol to meet Grandpa Carter and finalize the wedding arrangements. I walked straight up to Olivia and slammed the newspaper down in front of her, along with statements from the elderly couple and my professor, clearing my name. Olivia's face stiffened, but she quickly forced a smile. "Oh, Emily, I'm so sorry. I didn't know you were the person in the photo." The picture was taken by one of my colleagues. I was just following his notes when I wrote the article. I raised an eyebrow. Even strangers managed to figure out who I was from that blurry photo. And yet you, someone who knows me well, want me to believe you had no idea? Do you really think that excuse works? She opened her mouth to say something, but I cut her off. "Is this what your newspaper does? Printing falsehoods without verifying the truth first?" Do you journalists just sit in your offices making up stories instead of investigating? Her face flushed with anger. Do you even know my credentials? Do you know my standing in the journalism world? And you, a mere student without even a diploma, dare to question me? I let out a cold chuckle and stepped closer, watching the unease flicker across her face. Ethan once told me you were an exceptional woman, someone so outstanding that he forced me to retake my exams just so I could follow your path. But now, I see that you're nothing special after all. Not only have you insulted my honor as a soldier, but you've also disgraced your profession as a journalist. She tried to protest, but I didn't give her a chance. I'm not the naive little girl you could manipulate anymore, I said, my voice steady. Do you even understand the consequences of fabricating a story about a soldier? Do you know how serious of a crime it is to incite hostility between the military and civilians? If you don't want to end up in prison, you'd better write a retraction and issue a public apology. Otherwise, be prepared for what comes next. Olivia's eyes reddened, her lips trembling as she whispered, "The news cycle will move on soon. This is just a small issue. It will all blow over in time. If I retract my article now, it will ruin my career." Just then, Ethan, who had remained silent, finally stepped forward, his face dark with displeasure. For a moment, I thought that as a fellow soldier, he would stand by my side, that he would at least acknowledge my anger and support me in clearing my name. But instead, he frowned and said, "The article wasn't Olivia's fault. She was misled by a colleague. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Olivia has worked hard to reach where she is today. Are you really going to destroy her career over something so trivial?" I felt my breath hitch, my chest tightening as tears stung my eyes. I wasn't sure whether I was more angry or disappointed. Maybe both. I clenched my fists and forced my voice to stay steady. "And what about me, Ethan? What about my future? I worked so hard to get into the military medical university. This isn't just my dream, it's my parents' legacy. And yet, because of a few careless words from her, my reputation has been completely ruined. Does that mean nothing to you? You can't even guarantee your own degree." Ethan stared at me for a long moment before finally speaking again. "It would be even better if you just withdrew from the military medical university. If you retake the exams next year, you can still apply to Harvard." The words had barely left his mouth when a loud slap cut through the air. The entire room fell into stunned silence. Even I was momentarily frozen by my own action. Ethan's face bore the clear imprint of my palm, a bright red mark against his skin. He furrowed his brows, staring at me in disbelief, as if he couldn't process what had just happened. It was Olivia who reacted first. She rushed forward, her voice shrill. "Emily, what are you doing? I know you're upset about my marriage to Ethan, and now that you've finally found something to use against me, you must be eager to step on me, right? But Ethan is your elder. The Carter family raised you. How could you treat him like this?" I let out a cold, mocking laugh. Do I owe the Carter family? I already repaid that debt in my past life, 50 years of devotion, only to be cast aside. And let's not forget, my parents saved countless lives on the battlefield, including members of the Carter family. General Carter took me in not out of kindness, but out of gratitude and guilt. If anything, it's your family that owes mine. I turned my gaze back to Ethan. "Olivia, you're wrong. Maybe I did love Ethan before, but not anymore. After what he just said, all I feel is disgust, the same way I feel about you." Ethan's eyes flickered slightly. I could see the tension in his expression as I continued, my voice steady. 10 years of love and resentment. Let's call it even today. From now on, Ethan, you and I are nothing to each other. The moment I turned to leave, Ethan instinctively grabbed my arm, as if he wanted to say something. But before he could get a word out, I yanked my arm free. I gathered the necessary evidence and, in coordination with the university, submitted an official complaint to the newspaper's leadership. They took the issue seriously, immediately retracting Olivia's article and publishing a week-long apology in the paper. Olivia faced severe disciplinary action. Because of the scandal's widespread damage and its impact on civilian-military relations, her journalist credentials were revoked. When General Carter found out about the incident, he was furious. He firmly opposed Ethan and Olivia's wedding. I later heard that the day I left the Carter family, General Carter had just returned home, only to beat Ethan so severely with a belt that his skin was bruised and torn. And just like that, Ethan and I were completely severed from each other. After 12 months, war broke out. Ethan was critically wounded. With the worsening battle conditions on the front lines, students from the military medical university were deployed to the field hospitals. While we weren't experienced enough to perform major surgeries, we could still assist with basic wound care and bandaging. Rumors spread quickly. I overheard someone say, "I heard General Carter lost a leg in an explosion. They couldn't stop the bleeding when he was brought in." Some of my classmates who knew my history with Ethan hesitated before approaching me. "Emily, do you want to go check on General Carter?" I continued, wrapping a soldier's wound, my expression unreadable. "I don't have time. That's the critical injury ward. We wouldn't be of any use there." In my past life, when I heard Ethan had gone to war, I had been reckless and impulsive. Still a university student at the time, I had rushed to find him without a second thought. On the battlefield, a grenade had exploded between us. My ears had gone deaf from the blast. Ethan, feeling responsible for what had happened, had been forced into marriage with me under General Carter's pressure. Meanwhile, Olivia, after waiting for him for years without results, had finally given up and left the country with a foreign man. Back then, I had thought that without my interference, without my desperate, foolish love, in this life, Ethan should have been able to be with the one he truly loved, his white moonlight. But after all the twists and turns, this was the ending he was left with. I saw him again 2 months later. By then, his condition had improved significantly, and he had been transferred to a regular hospital room for recovery. However, his left leg had been amputated. He could never serve as a soldier again. This loss hit him hard. For days, he lashed out at everyone. The hospital staff avoided his room whenever possible, terrified of upsetting him. No one dared to leave anything near his bedside, let alone linger for too long. That day, it was finally my turn to care for him. The moment I stepped into the room, Ethan froze. His face was pale, his lips trembling slightly. I acted as if I didn't know him. I went through the standard procedure, changing his bandages, treating his wounds, completing my task with clinical precision. When I was done, I turned to leave without a single word. "Emily," he called my name. I stopped. Through the mask covering my face, only my cold gaze was visible as I turned back to look at him. A bitter chuckle escaped his lips. "You've changed so much." I had changed. After joining the military medical university, following in my parents' footsteps, I had come to truly understand what I wanted, to grasp who I was meant to be. Every day, I faced life and death. I had crawled through the wreckage of war, survived amidst gunfire and bloodshed. I was no longer the little girl who hid behind him, who saw nothing beyond love, who only had eyes for him. I looked at him calmly. "Do you need anything else? I have other patients to tend to." His voice was hoarse, filled with exhaustion. "Emily, do you still refuse to forgive me?" Ethan was wrong, because in the world of adults, forgiveness didn't matter. I had simply grown up. I had come to understand so many things, but there was still something I couldn't figure out. The battlefield in my past life had never been this brutal. What had changed? Where had things gone wrong? The answer came soon enough. The military issued a statement revealing the truth behind this war. Our army had suffered such heavy losses because someone had leaked classified military intelligence, and among the names on the list of traitors was Olivia Jennings, along with several of her colleagues. Everything suddenly made sense. Olivia had used her role as a journalist to get close to the Carter family, to Ethan, to gather military secrets. In my past life, I had constantly been wary of her, always keeping my guard up, making it difficult for her to obtain information from Ethan. That must have caused problems in their plans. And after I returned from the battlefield, Ethan, under immense pressure, had been forced to marry me, cutting off all of Olivia's opportunities, ending her mission prematurely. So she hadn't left the country out of heartbreak. She had fled to avoid being exposed. And yet, the most ridiculous part of it all? Ethan had spent his entire life longing for her, cherishing her memory, even writing a book in her honor. But he had never realized that the greatest betrayal had come from the woman he had held so dearly. When Ethan saw the list of traitors, he was utterly stunned. A guttural, pained scream tore from his throat. He tried to push himself up from the bed, fury burning in his eyes. Even if he had to crawl, he wanted to confront Olivia, to demand answers. But with only one leg left, he collapsed helplessly to the floor. That woman, why? Why would she do this? Emily, she got the information from me, didn't she? That's why we lost so many soldiers, isn't it? That's why all those men died, isn't it? The room fell into chaos. Doctors and nurses rushed in, pinning him down as he struggled against them, his screams raw and unhinged. In the end, with his voice shaking, he grabbed onto me. Tell me, Emily. Tell me I wasn't that much of a fool. How could I have been so blind? But no amount of tears could undo the past. As I looked at him, at the broken man before me, I suddenly thought of the Ethan from my past life, the one who had written the love of my life for 50 years on the back of our old photograph. If he had known the truth then, would he have still spent his entire life mourning the woman who betrayed him? Olivia was arrested. Ethan, for his role in leaking military intelligence, was dishonorably discharged. He was now under investigation, with no future ahead of him. The war raged on for another 6 months before it finally ended. My classmates and I completed our mission at the front lines and returned to school, resuming our studies. No matter what the future held, the time we had spent on the battlefield, the lives we had saved, the hardships we had endured, would shape us forever. On the day we withdrew from the field hospital, in front of everyone, my boyfriend, Ryan Zhao, proposed to me. Ryan and I had met at the Military Medical University. Ryan and I were more than classmates, we were comrades in arms. We shared the same ideals, the same unwavering commitment to saving lives. We had dedicated our youth, and one day, we would dedicate our very existence to this path. There were no roses, no diamond rings, only a handful of small daisies he had picked from the roadside. But in a place littered with rubble and scorched earth, the fact that he had managed to find even these flowers for a proposal meant everything. In that moment, I saw my parents in him. Ryan knelt on one knee, his voice steady and full of emotion. Emily, marry me. I will spend my life making you happy. I will stand by your side, walk this road with you until the very end. Tears welled up in my eyes. For some reason, my mind drifted back to my past self, the girl who had once chased after Ethan Carter so desperately. To me back then, Ethan had always been out of reach. No matter how hard I tried, I could only catch glimpses of his back. In his eyes, I had always been the annoying little girl who clung to him, the housekeeper who cooked for him, took care of him, not someone he could see as an equal, as a partner. But now, I no longer had to lower myself to the ground, humbling myself, begging for his affection or his pity. I threw myself into Ryan's arms, crying as the years of sacrifice, bloodshed, and death finally found their conclusion in this perfect, beautiful ending. Cheers erupted throughout the hospital. The overwhelming sound of congratulations filled the air, echoing through the halls. Ethan must have heard it too. From his hospital room, if he looked at the window, he would see me, locked in Ryan's embrace, holding him tightly. That afternoon, I went to change his bandages for the last time. He remained silent throughout, not saying a word even as I finished and gathered my things to leave. But just as I was about to walk out the door, he finally spoke. Congratulations. It was the same word I had once said to him and Olivia all those years ago. Ryan and I decided to get married. Before the wedding, we made a trip to the capital to visit Grandpa Carter. After all, my parents were no longer alive, and he was, at least in name, the one who had taken me in. It was only right that I inform him of my marriage. That evening, after dinner, Grandpa Carter handed me a small, weathered metal box. His hands trembled slightly as he placed it in front of me. These are the belongings your parents left behind, he said. You were too young before. I was afraid it would bring you pain, so I held on to them. But now you've grown up, and you're about to start your own family. It's time for you to have them. I opened the box. Inside were photographs of my biological parents, their identification documents, and an old, yellowed newspaper clipping. As I traced the faded ink with my fingers, my heart pounded. Something about the article felt eerily familiar. Following the clues from the news piece, I began investigating. And that was when I uncovered the truth. The journalist responsible for my parents' deaths on the battlefield. was Olivia Jennings. Back then, she had only been a fresh graduate, a mere intern at a newspaper agency. In her desperation to prove herself, she had recklessly ventured into the war zone, disregarding all warnings. She had leaped past the safety perimeter, determined to capture the perfect frontline photograph. And because of that, an accident had occurred. At the time, because she was still a student, the military had secretly protected her, covering up her involvement. She had graduated unscathed, her reckless mistake buried. From there, she had risen in the journalism world, wielding her pen like a weapon, crafting her own legacy. When Grandpa Carter learned the truth, his expression darkened with disgust. "No wonder I disliked her from the first moment I met her," he muttered. There was always something off about her. Ethan was a fool to be blinded by her. The military had finalized its judgment. Ethan, though he had unintentionally leaked classified information, had his battlefield achievements taken into account. His war merits balanced out his crime, sparing him from severe punishment. But his military rank, his title, his entire career, everything was stripped away. For a man like Ethan, this was a fate worse than death. He locked himself away, barely leaving his room, hiding in the shadows like a rat in the sewers. On the day of my wedding to Ryan, he finally emerged. Leaning on a crutch, he stood at a distance, watching. Leaning on a steel cane, he walked toward me step by step and handed me a wedding gift. I recognized it immediately. It was his mother's bracelet, the Carter family heirloom. In my past life, even after 50 years of taking care of him, he had never given it to me. I had always known that it was meant for Olivia, but now, of all times, he was offering it to me. His hair had turned gray, his eyes bloodshot. The once handsome face that had captivated so many had aged decades in just a few years. But when he looked at me, there was still a faint glimmer in his gaze, as if he had finally found some clarity in his chaotic world. I shook my head and gently pushed the bracelet back into his hands. "Mr. Carter, as far as I know, this bracelet is a Carter family heirloom, meant for the future daughter-in-law. Today is my wedding to Ryan. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to give this to me." The light in his eyes dimmed instantly. A bitter, self-deprecating smile replaced it. His lips moved slightly before he murmured, "You're right." Then, before the wedding reception even ended, he left. Not long after, I received news of his suicide. In this life, he never became the revered general who spent his old age reminiscing about his lost love. Instead, he became a man blinded by emotions and deception, a man who betrayed his comrades, whose name became one of shame. He spent his final days drowning in guilt and condemnation, unable to bear the weight of his own mistakes. But I remained steadfast on the path I had chosen. With the person I loved by my side, I would dedicate my life to something far greater than a fleeting, misguided love.